Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Okay, what's up? Welcome back to Game Over Edmonton. The Edmonton Oilers win convincingly over the LA Kings. The Kings lose. We're going back to California. Kings are on the brink of elimination, and the Edmonton Oilers have the chance to send them packing, send them home, the Oilers are going to send the Kings home or have an opportunity to send the Kings home on Saturday. I'm so excited. I can't even form sentences properly. Connor McDavid, obviously, Leon Draisaitl, Evander Kane, Zach Hyman, Nick Bukestad put on a show. It was an absolute blast to watch. Stuart Skinner made saves when he had to. The Kings had absolutely nothing they could do. Flat Top was outcoached by a mile, and the Edmonton Oilers kind of exposed the LA Kings. I'm joined by obviously Andrew Berkshire from Game Over Montreal, Kaja Mae from Game Over Vancouver. I want to thank you guys so much for sitting through that drubbing of the Kings. I know it was a little hard to watch it sometimes because the Kings were just getting beat so badly, but you guys made it through. You're here. I'm just so excited to hear your thoughts on the game that happened. But first, I need to read a message from our friends at Sports Interaction. Get in on the action and make your bet with Sports Interaction. Every hit, every shot, every goal from all your favorite teams and players, like Leon Draisaitl scoring 10,000 goals in the first round, with competitive odds, the best live in play, and more ways than ever before to get into the game. Like Minute Madness, our exclusive game with so many opportunities to win by the minute. Download the app in Ontario, use the QR code you see at the bottom of the screen, or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 plus, please play responsibly. All right, little choppy off the start. I'm happy to be here now. I know it's super late for you, Andrew. I know it's actually pretty early, relatively early for you, Kaya. So it's not even really a bit of struggle for you to be here. But just overall, I want to ask Kaya first, and then I'll pass it off to Andrew. What were your thoughts in the game? I know you both don't watch the Oilers regularly. You don't watch all 82 games. What did you think of that performance tonight after the 6-3 win?
I thought it was a great bounce back to kind of get some life into the series for the Oilers because it feels like they've kind of been on the outskirts of success. I mean, they had the game two win and everything, but like LA kind of felt like they were running their show. Up until this game, they completely knocked LA out of the water. It's exciting, especially during the playoffs, to watch two of the best players in the league play. So that was a great opportunity. And yeah, just the Oilers are underratedly insane, in my opinion. And I don't like them during the regular season because my team has to play them like four times and we lose most of the time. But when it comes to the playoffs, like they're probably Canada's best shot at, getting the cup we've waited for 30 years, aside from go Leafs. But aside from them, yeah, overall in the game, as a LA Kings hater, it was a great game. It was a great game. That dates back to also with the Canucks. But yeah, it was great to watch the Oilers dominate the Kings for 60 minutes of hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a super important win for the Oilers. Obviously, to get within a game of eliminating the Kings, but I think people underestimate how big of a call Jay Woodcroft made going back to Stu Skinner to start this game. And Skinner was a little shaky to start. I think he really found himself throughout the game, but Campbell played pretty well in relief. Like, he was still chaotic and he was still Jack Campbell, so you can't really trust that. But going back to your guy that you've leaned on throughout the season that picked it up when Campbell has continually failed during the year, I think that it took a lot of guts to make that call and not go with the guy who won you the game. So I love that from Jay Woodcroft. He's a guy that just doesn't seem afraid to make big calls, to make big challenges on plays. He usually gets them right. Actually, I don't know if he's ever gotten one wrong, but
Challenges?
the challenges, yeah.
I think early on he's gotten maybe a few wrong here and there, but it's not like they aren't bad ones to make. The MVP of the challenges for the Oilers is their video coach, Jeremy Kupal. After there's a couple of games they won this year, I believe one was against San Jose, maybe one was against Nashville, where they made I think they had at least 3 goals from the other team called back, and both times, you know how some teams have like, they give a helmet to the MVP of the game in the locker room, or they give like some sort of appreciation thing. The Oilers give like a cut, like a motorcycle jacket, and they both games they gave it to Jeremy Kupal, their video coach, as the most valuable player during that game. So because he's an undefeated. There were games where Jeremy Kupal had a better save percentage than Jack Campbell this year. Like that just tells you how rough Campbell's season was. So
It's been a
yeah.
rough one, but hey, credit to Jack Campbell for sticking with it last game, and he really did make some big saves. Like, did he look like terrible? Yes, but he stood there in front of the net and he made some big saves when the Oilers needed him to. So good for him for that, and doesn't seem like a guy who's going to complain in the role that he's in. So that's also good for the Oilers. But man, who would have expected we were close to a Nick Bjugstad hat trick tonight? Of all the guys, like when he got that partial break in the third period, I was like ready to pump my fist if he would, get it in there and get a hat trick, because like that's a rare guy to get a hat trick, especially in the role Edmonton's playing him in.
Absolutely. The depth scoring for Edmonton definitely showed up tonight. One thing I just want to say about the goalies this year, it's funny. The best performance they got was the performance Jack Campbell gave them when they absolutely needed him the most. Other than that, this series, if you look at Stuart Skinner's numbers, he's been as average can be. Like again, tonight, he comes in just under zero. It was like negative 0.63 goals saved above expected. Like I believe he's been a minus or negative in every single game they played, but like just a negative, So Stuart Skinner hasn't been bad, but I think when it comes, at least in terms of like high danger chances, he hasn't really been making many saves on those. Like you saw like the Kempe goal, the second goal that they scored, where I believe it was Yamo who was defending Kempe, and Cece just, I don't know, left his man. And yeah, you would like a save from Stuart Skinner there. He didn't save it, and he kind of kept the Kings in the game. Obviously, it was 3-2 going to the intermission, because the Oilers can never just play a straight up easy defensive game. Like it's always crackhead hockey, running around with knives, chasing people. It's always fun. It's definitely probably caused a number of heart attacks in the city of Edmonton, but it's a blast to watch. Obviously, I don't know if we should touch on this or not, but I think a big storyline before the game, coming into the game, was there's been a big back and forth between Kings and Oilers fans. And obviously, like there isn't any playoff series, and obviously you're going to have jerks on either side of the fan base. Like you had Oilers fans throwing shit on the ice in game one. Obviously, you don't want to see that. I hope every single person did that. It's banned from Rogers Place. But then you had the incident with Cicely Rose, a kid with cancer who Evander Kane's kind of become friends with, and she's been following him in the Oilers all season. She's been at his house, and he's been doing a lot for her, and they've kind of developed a really nice bond. And obviously she was out in LA watching the Oilers and had a negative interaction with a Kings fan in the washroom. And when that whole thing went down and Kane posted that picture on Twitter, you just knew he was going to come out fired up. And now in a fired up Evander Kane, it could be good and bad. It's a 50-50 shot. You're rolling the dice. He's either going to come out and take a really stupid penalty, or he's going to score a goal. And the Oilers got what seemed to be like their first goal from the other power play unit, who they see like 20 seconds of ice time a game. Evander Kane shot from the top of the circle, scores. It was 1-0 Oilers early. And kind of after that, it seemed like the Kings were chasing the game like the entire night, right? I'm not sure if you guys have any thoughts on what happened earlier. If you want to, it's up to you or not. I'll ask Andrew first, and then Kaja, what your thoughts are on that Evander Kane situation earlier.
Yeah, have either of you guys seen John Wick 4 yet?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so remember, I don't want no spoilers, but at the end when there's the stairs and they fall down the stairs and it goes on for a really long time.
Yeah.
In my head, any adult that spits on a kid, that should happen to them.
Absolutely.
Just kick them down the never-ending staircase.
Yeah.
Grow up.
I couldn't believe it when I read that. I was shocked.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to spit on a child. Like that's come on, just egregious. And I don't want to tar the whole Kings fan base. I think people online go crazy about like everything like one bad person does or like a couple bad people do in a fan base. Every team has those jerks because tribalism in sports. But yeah, that's completely over the line in every possible way, and there's just no place for it.
Absolutely. Kaya?
Yeah, kind of just what Andrew said. No place in the game for that. It's literally just a game of men on knife shoes. It's not that deep. Um, but the fact that people were also negatively reacting to Kane afterwards, about it on he posted about it on social media
Yeah.
afterwards, and just yeah. It was a situation to kind of wake up to today. So that
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
was
I
that
yeah,
was some drama. Yeah.
I get it. It's one of those things. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things I thought I'd bring up before the show, just because it was pretty important today. And you knew that Evander Kane was going to come out fired up, and he definitely did. It was a really, really, really fun game to watch, because I love that for some reason, Todd McClellan, when the Kings are on the road, just like there is no forecheck. It is insane to watch. The Edmonton Oilers in the defense zone can hold the puck there for the entire game, and they will not pressure. The Kings would be ecstatic if they could win the game 0-0, because that is what they would try to do, right? They do not pressure whatsoever. So when the Oilers get that first goal, it is so, so, so important. And once you do, the Kings then, they're kind of forced to pressure, even though in the third period, when they're down 6-3, they still wouldn't throw a forecheck out, which was really funny. Yeah, I know it was really awesome, but definitely after the first period, when the Kings come back to get within one before the end of the third period, what were you guys nervous at all?
I wasn't. I think the Oilers have just been in such control. I know there's people kind of trashing Skinner in the comments, and I just feel like I need to defend him a little bit, just from a guy who's watched other teams all season long. I think the Oilers are so improved over recent additions defensively as a team, but the chances that they do give up, like I don't know if it's just that the way the LA Kings are playing and they're forced into a counterattack strategy and they have a bunch of players who can do that effectively, but it seems like every time the Kings do get a chance, it's an incredible chance.
Yes.
And like the first goal, I would say Skinner overplayed the initial shot, which didn't hit the net too much and left himself open, but also like McDavid just ghosted the back check completely.
We don't
The other
slander
goals,
McDavid.
like I'm not blaming Skinner for the
Mhm.
Kempe goal. Like that was sick. That was a
Mhm.
sick goal. And throughout this series, like he's actually been decent. Like the LA Kings have an expected goals of 15.6 in this series, according to Natural Stat Trick, and he's allowed
Mhm.
16. So he's slightly below,
Yeah,
but it's his
exactly.
first real playoff experience, and it's playing against a team that, like, because they're forced to counterattack all the time, like expected goals doesn't really capture
Mhm.
how much pressure is on a goaltender in that situation. It's tough to be the guy who's always saving like breakaways and breakdowns as opposed to constant pressure in your zone where you're keyed in. So I think he's actually been pretty strong, and most of the goals that have gone in on him are just like incredible chances. And the same could be said for Corpusalo, who didn't deserve to be pulled tonight. It's just that the Oilers are a friggin' wagon.
Well, just talking about Corpusalo, the Oilers kind of figured out his weakness early on in the series. They could not buy a goal. I saw people tweeting like Andre Vasilevsky and Jonas Corpusalo had a Freaky Friday moment and switched bodies, because they are both playing outside themselves. It does not make sense how Corpusalo is robbing everything. Corpusalo is really good with his lateral movement coming across the crease, like down, especially down low. And the Oilers figured out. You saw like the original clue came on that Costin the 3-2 goal back in game 2 when the Oilers tied the series, when he scored kind of on a hard shot from the top of the circle. And then every goal it seems like that the Oilers have scored on him since has come from that exact same spot. You saw McDavid score 2 goals from that exact spot on the power play 2 games ago. You saw Hyman get the overtime winner from there. You saw Evander Kane tie the game from there. You saw Evander Kane get the first goal of this game from there, right? They keyed in on Korpisalo up high, shooting from that left side of the ice. And it just seemed like he didn't have an answer. Like they found his weakness, they keyed in on it, and they kind of exposed him. And again, Korpisalo still, like, early on was phenomenal. Like, I believe it was Draisaitl he robbed, like, right in the first period. He's been McDavid's whole thing this year. The reason why he got 64 goals, he goes 5-hole more than any player I've ever seen, and it's such a fast shot. Even if goalies know he's going there, it does not matter. And twice tonight I saw Korpisalo just close that 5-hole faster than most goalies I've seen this year, right? So it's really tough. Kaya, did you think Korpisalo deserved to be pulled?
I think I thought they were going to switch it out for Phoenix Copley after the first. I'm not going to lie, even though the Kings were only down 1 goal. I thought I was going to switch with that because the Oilers just seemed to be running the Kings show just the entire game, but also in the first. It just felt like maybe they needed a new fresh face in net. That was the first time I'd actually seen what Jonas Korpisalo looked like, so that was a shock. I was like, I don't know who that meant. Oh, that's Korpisalo. Okay.
That mustache.
Yeah, it's something. And then Phoenix Copley getting in net after the 4th goal. I thought, yeah, it's not really needed. Like, Vasilevsky can sit there and allow 7 goals and he's not going to get pulled, but you pull this guy after 4. I understand he's not, he doesn't have like the Vezina not caliber, but resume as Vasilevsky, but I don't know. I felt like there was still time for the Kings to like let him play out whatever was happening in that situation. And yeah, it wasn't his fault. The Oilers are a wagon. But I also had a comment about Skinner. Is he still technically a rookie?
Yes, he's eligible for the Calder.
He's eligible for. He will. He's in my top 3 for Calder, but
he's my number 1. But yes.
I forgot what his name is, but the rookie in Arizona, that was really good.
Matias Maccelli?
Yes. That's my number 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very good pick, but I feel like you're in the minority just because.
Oh, yeah, no, I know I'm in the minority, but
well, it's going to be crazy, and I know we'll get back to the game in a second, but an Edmonton Oilers this year will win the Art Ross, the Rocket Richard, the Ted Lindsay, the Hart, probably the Calder, maybe the Conn Smythe. Like, the Oilers might clean up the awards this year, so it's very fun to see as an Oilers fan. I've never felt happier. So, man, this is crazy. But yeah, the one thing I wanted to say also, the guy on the Kings, it's funny because the Kings' top 2 centers are Todd McLellan just has them focus so much on defensive effort, and I know the Kings deceptively this year were one of the best. They were the second, I believe they were the second best power play, and they were like a top 5 team in terms of goals for. I might be wrong on that, but I know they were pretty dynamic offensively, or at least deceptively dynamic offensively. And because of Todd McLellan's strategy specifically against the Oilers, he's coaching scared. He's taking so much of that offensive potential out of the hands of his top 2 centers, making them focus on defense. And it seems like they're almost guaranteed to lose the matchup. Now, obviously, it was a little more 50-50 early on when McDavid and Draisaitl were centering separate lines, but pretty much Todd McLellan had no answer for 97 and 29 playing together 5-on-5, especially when Evander Kane's on the wing. Like, that's the closest thing you're going to get to like the Golden State Warriors in the NHL, just absolutely dominant, the best players in the league. Not Evander Kane, obviously, but he is a pretty good winger. Playing all together 5-on-5. And the thing that worries me most, and I'll ask you guys if this was a concern for you, or at least what you thought from the outside, because every time I saw this matchup, especially last game, and they did a better job this game, and I think it helped with the Bukestad elevation. But when the Oilers put that super line together, they end up running a second line of Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and it was Kyler Yamamoto. He was moved down, and Nick Bukestad played on that line tonight. And they go against the Danault line for LA, which, like I said, is a pretty dynamic offensive line. And it scares me every time they're on the ice because it feels like it's just like, get out even, don't score. All you need to do is get out even. I believe the Oilers would have outscored them quite significantly tonight. But when you see that matchup, do you think that's something that's going to bite Jay Woodcroft in the butt going forward, or it could bite Jay Woodcroft in the butt, Andrew?
It definitely could, because if you look at the matchups that have happened so far in this series, it's clear that LA wants Danault on McDavid. And, I've watched Danault shut down some of the best players in the game. I think he did a better job last year in the playoffs. this year hasn't been a great year for him. He hasn't had the defensive numbers that he usually has. I know he's played tougher competition to kind of free up Kopitar, and we see like Kopitar all of a sudden the last 2 years completely rejuvenated where he's not taking the hardest minutes. But McDavid's actually been worse without Danault on the ice, without Doughty on the ice, without Mikey Anderson on the ice this series than with them on the ice. So if I were Jay Woodcraft, I would just be leaning into that. Let the LA Kings try to win that matchup and take Danault out of it, because when it's Connor and Leon together, you can't handle it, right? Like they just can't handle it. Nobody can handle it. It's too much at this stage. Both those players are so far into their prime and so hungry for this. Like Connor, you can see it with his skating, but Leon, like last year, I wasn't sure if he was as good as his numbers were, right? Because like you're playing with whatever broken situation he had in his ankle, and it was all like assists, and you're like, is this guy just like fudging the numbers and he's just getting in on everything? He is one of the best playoff players I've ever seen in my life. Like he is unbelievable. And then you put that with McDavid, and it's just, who cares what the matchup is?
The way Leon elevates his game is unbelievable. Kyle, what do you think of Leon Draisaitl, or at least watching him tonight? Because I know you've seen him a lot in the regular season.
Yeah. As a Leon Draisaitl fan, amazing. Chef's kiss, no notes. It's definitely a switch from last year where he was quite obviously injured most of the time. Yeah, so it's definitely an improvement from that. You can see that he doesn't really care about the regular season that much anymore. And then, like, he still puts up a shit ton of points. But when he gets to the playoffs, he's just on another level of elite. Like, elite 2, I don't know. Like it's diamond and platinum, I guess. I think that's how that works.
He is what Colorado Avalanche fans think Nathan MacKinnon is. The way he elevates his game.
Oh no.
That's a hot take. Oh, I don't know if I
Listen,
can
absolutely.
that.
Captain Clutch. Like Leon Draisaitl, there are people in Edmonton that believe he is like the real captain of the Edmonton Oilers. Like Leon Draisaitl's a 26-year-old guy from Germany. He has houses I believe he's a house in Spain. He can do whatever he wants in the summer, right? He's a multi-millionaire. But you know where he is in August? He's on the ice in Edmonton with the Oilers rookies. There's no other roster players there. It's Leon Draisaitl and the guys who were like just drafted, skating after rookie camp in the summer. Like he is phenomenal. The leadership that he shows, I don't think it gets recognized enough, but he is like an Edmonton Oiler through and through. He loves being an Oiler. We all love having him. He's phenomenal. He has one of the best and most underrated. I think it's a little more well known now, but the most underrated personalities in the game. And the way he comes out and performs in the playoffs is like nothing I've ever seen. You cannot get the puck off him. He fends off defenders like nothing I've ever seen. Like down low in the corner, you could see he invites the contact from very physical guys like Mikey Anderson, Drew Doughty, whatever. They cannot strip him of the puck. He eats them for breakfast. It is absolutely wild. I just want to say we have 98 people watching. We only got 30 likes. You guys want to go ahead, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. We hope this game over Edmonton goes on for quite a while. So let's keep racking up those numbers. Let's keep growing and growing, because it obviously helps quite a bit when you guys hit the like button. But one thing I also wanted to say to everyone watching, we're raising money for the Alphabet Sports Collective throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Alphabet Sports Collective creates a safe and inclusive environment in hockey for folks of all sexual identities and gender expressions through education, community building, and mobilization. You can donate to the Alphabet Sports Collective at the link down below. It's in the description. Check it out. It's a real good cause. We know people that are, they're all friends of the show. So, please go take a look if you can. But anyways, another playoff performer on the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl is the number one. And you can see as the series goes on, Connor's getting more and more dynamic. He's figuring out the way the Kings are defending him. You can see him cutting to the middle more with the puck. But there's one guy on the Oilers back end who has just elevated his game to another level. Brett Kulak. Oh my God.
Habs legend.
Oh, he is phenomenal. I don't know where this came from. It was similar to last playoffs. The way he can just turn on the Jets. He's such an underratedly good skater. And man, to get a goal without Leon Draisaitl on the ice with the guys who are working really hard, because the bottom six has been phenomenal for the Oilers. And they have won a matchup that I don't think a lot of people expected them to win against the LA Kings. But you have Warren Fogle working really hard behind the net. Ryan McLeod, I think, is the second best skater on the Oilers behind Connor McDavid. Finds Kulak sneaking down low. Kulak gets the goal, which he deserved flat out, because the last 2 games he's been phenomenal. Is Kulak the guy that sticks up for you? Is there anyone else you think's just stepped up their game, or what do you thought of Kulak? Andrew, I'll ask you, and then I'll ask Kaja.
I mean, I'm a huge Brett Kulak fan. I watched him for years in Montreal. Was a crazy waiver pickup from the Calgary Flames back in the day. He's a guy who can play in the top 4 if you put him with a really good partner. He's a guy who, in your bottom pairing, can absolutely dominate. He's just a really good toolsy player, right? He doesn't have that high-end flashy skill that a lot of guys do today, but he just does small things really well. And when those small things add up, you just see, like tonight, he led, I believe, the entire Oilers roster in expected goals for percentage. He does all the little things that you want a player to do. And it's almost like he's one of those guys that you don't see a lot. He like has a quiet game, and then he shows up out of nowhere with a great goal or a great assist. I know he took a long time to score his first goal in Montreal back in the day, but he seems to be able to pick up the offense a little bit better in Edmonton with more offense to go around. But outside of him, Evan Bouchard, man, this guy has arrived. Has he arrived, or has he arrived?
Oh yeah, I listen. I'm not trying to pump my own tires. I knew how good Evan Bouchard was. Like, there was a strong divide in oil country among just like, every market has the advanced analytic guys and the intangible guys. We had the Tyson Barrie supporters and the Evan Bouchard supporters, right? The Evan Bouchard supporters won. We had some people saying, oh man, first we had the people that said Tyson Barrie to Matthias Ekholm was a lateral move. And oh my God, stay off drugs, kids. Like, absolutely insane take. But then you have Evan Bouchard come out, and you have people worried about the Oilers power play, right? I don't know how you could be worried about the Oilers power play with McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Nugent-Hopkins on it, because, like, really, to be honest with you, the guy that stirs the drink on the power play is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. But Evan Bouchard, his shot has added another dimension. This is one thing. This is actually a good topic, something I want to ask you guys. I believe, and if my math is incorrect, in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. The Edmonton Oilers power play in this series is 8 for 13. It might be 8 for 14. So the Kings penalty kill is about 35% right now for the series. What is it like watching an Edmonton Oilers power play from an outside perspective? Andrew, I'll ask you then, Kaya.
Well, I don't know about you, Kaya, but to me it seems like it should be illegal. And I know the refs have done their best not to call penalties, but man, I watched the Montreal Canadiens, I would say, about 78 times this season. And watching a 15% power play compared to a 60% power play, it's a wild adjustment.
It's unbelievable. Like, there's nothing else you could say. Kaya, when you're watching the power play, what do you think?
It's insanity. Anything power play where you can have, your best, basically the best of the best on the ice. I feel like that's just, it's lucky. Edmonton fans are lucky. I just want to say that you guys get it so well, and I know y'all have ups and downs, but you get freaking Connor McDavid.
Yep.
Just him alone would be enough. But yeah, having a really bad penalty kill, I have a bit of experience with that, so I feel for the Kings a little bit on that. But I think just McClellan doesn't know how to solve the Oilers, or I don't know who coaches the penalty kill for the Kings, but
yeah, well, the Oilers on the season, like, they literally had the best power play since they started tracking the stat. I think they were just over 32%. I believe they might have been like 31.9. But they came in like about 0.4 percentage points above the 1977-78 Montreal Canadiens, who were playing against like the worst Washington Capitals team of all time, right? The Oilers didn't get that benefit. So, and also most goalies didn't chain smoke cigarettes in the intermission, at least that I know of. So the Oilers I want to say had a little bit harder defense, but I'm very biased, obviously. So take that with a grain of salt. But you come into the series, and obviously, I believe the LA Kings power play coming into the series, I don't have this number in front of me. I believe it was like 10th or 12th in the NHL. Like, they were kind of in the top third of the league. So they weren't a bad penalty kill by any means, and they are a strong defensive team. But you can see just the mental collapse now when they take a penalty, because they almost know it's almost a foregone conclusion that the Oilers are going to score. And I think, and again, it's tough for me with X's and O's sometimes, but I believe that the LA Kings on the Oilers, because they got 3 power plays this game, on the later power plays, they've tried to make an adjustment where they're way more aggressive on the guys on the flanks and Evan Bouchard, and they're trying to not give up as much, and they're just essentially trying to steal the puck rather than kind of boxing them out and just letting them play on the outside, which is what I think they did prior. But obviously their adjustments have kind of proven futile because they have not been effective. The Edmonton Oilers, literally, Wise Kyle put it in chat and he corrected me. They're 8 for 14. So they're a 57.1% power play over the last 5 games. Which,
terrible comparatively.
Exactly. It's unbelievable. And yeah, and Travis says the Kings power play is top 5. And the Oilers have been winning the special teams battle. It's funny that the series is only 3-2 because the 2 games that the Oilers probably played their best 5-on-5 were the first 2 games of the series. And obviously the Kings took one of those. And I think the biggest difference between that game and this game is, one, you're getting goals with Leon Draisaitl off the ice, so that's obviously always helps. But honestly, the Oilers were getting bounces. I think that, and they were much more disciplined. But you saw goals like the Zach Hyman getting a goal off his face. That didn't happen, 5 games ago. The Oilers are playing. I think they're earning. They're creating their own luck and they're earning these chances. But I think they've kind of figured out the Kings, and it's made for a much more fun series. And obviously, the Kings still, like you said before, like with that counterattack, there's 2 players on the Kings specifically who I think have changed series or are really dynamic, Fiala and Arvidsson. But every time those guys are on the ice, I clench my butt cheeks. Like, they scare me quite a bit. And it's funny because obviously we talked about the matchups of the top 2 lines, but I think where LA would win this series, and they obviously still can, so I'm not saying that this is a done deal by any means. It was that third line. That is the key, because I feel like they might have one of the best third lines out of any team in the league. Velarde, Fiala, and Iafallo was moved up. So I don't know if they swapped him with Arvidsson or Byfield or whoever you decide to put on the right side there. That third line going up, against Ryan McLeod and Warren Fogle and whoever, they actually been able to hold their head above water. But like early on, that third line, when those guys came back, were killing the Oilers. Let me ask you this. If the Kings were to come back, do you think there is any adjustment the Los Angeles Kings can make that they can throw at the Oilers in Game 6 to force a Game 7 and potentially win the series? I'll ask Kaya and then Andrew.
Figure out a way to
win the series.
Stop Leon Draisaitl. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you didn't hear me. That was my bad.
Yeah, figure out a way to stop Leon Draisaitl and I guess Brett Kulak now. And Bufstad. But yeah, the Kings, I do think they'll come back with a bit more bite, especially because they will be in Staples Center for Game 6. Refuse to call it the new name. And yeah, if it does go to a Game 7, I mean, hey, it would be a hell of a series. It would be even more of an exciting series. I know it's not good for you, Zach. I know, we need to preserve, your mental sanity, but it would be pretty entertaining. I mean, last season, I remember like it was the Oilers down in this position and Kane with the 6, with the 7. Sorry, I can count. With the 7 when he scored against LA last year. That was kind of like in my head. So I'm like waiting to see if something like that'll happen. I don't think it will. I think the Oilers will squeak one out, hopefully, for Game 6. But if it does go to Game 7, most of my brackets, I think I had Oilers in 6 or 7. So I think, yeah.
I had Oilers in 4, so mine's
okay,
busted.
Well, yeah.
The bias comes through. I think one thing I will give to the Kings is they don't seem to be afraid of the Oilers' power play until they get called for a penalty, because they don't seem to be shy about the infractions. Now, part of that could be because the refs are letting a lot of stuff go, and that Fiala-Arvidsson duo, we talked about them being dynamic. They've also been dynamic in the diving department, which has also been going, which is also going uncalled. But man, if they want to have any chance of coming back in this series, they have got to stop taking penalties. Now, whether that's schmoozing with the refs and trying to get this situation from the first two games back, where it seems like the Oilers couldn't buy a penalty call, sure. But the only way that they're going to find a way back in this series is you cannot stop that power play. At this point, it's too hot. You got to keep them off the power play, and you got to beat them at even strength. The scoring has been tight at even strength. It's their only shot, really. They need more from the Danault line, I think, especially defensively. They got to find a way to slow down McDavid through the neutral zone, and I don't know what you can do to stop Draisaitl. He's just so determined. He's incredible, man.
Summon the hockey gods.
Yeah.
Exactly. They got to sacrifice something.
Sacrifice.
Absolutely.
I mean, they already got rid of Jonathan Quick, so kind of a sacrifice. But I mean, sacrifice to Columbus, but then a sacrifice to Vegas. It was a really weird trade deadline.
Friedge said that they might bring Brandt Clarke in for Game 6, so that might change the dynamic a little bit on defense. But
that does not.
As great as Brandt Clarke is, like, are you really expecting? Like, it's a lot of pressure to put on what an 18-year-old or 19-year-old rookie
He's not
defenseman.
Cale Makar.
No.
Right? So that's the only defenseman I can remember that has come into a play. Like, Makar came in, I believe, against Calgary in that playoffs and made an immediate impact out of college, right? But he was playing against men in college. He was already an elite skater. I know Brandt Clarke's a good skater. I know Brandt Clarke was really good on the team that won gold in the World Juniors. And I, like, full disclosure, I can't say that I've watched a lot of OHL hockey this year. I obviously didn't get around to that. So I haven't watched Brandt Clarke in junior, but I cannot see a scenario. And obviously I'm jinxing myself. Brandt Clarke's going to have a hat trick next game, but I can't see a scenario in which you bring in Brandt Clarke, because you see guys who are the Kings more like mobile defensemen, who are kind of better, would be, you would think of typically as more like offensive minded defensemen who could transfer the puck, like Sean Durzi. He's probably struggled the most out of any Kings defenseman, right? And the Oilers are the more physical team. Now, they definitely have toned it down. The difference from the Oilers tonight from the Oilers in game one is monumental. In game one, they were coming out and they were getting suckered into everything. They were, after every whistle, they were starting scrums, they were slashing, they were whacking. Obviously, that was reflected in the way that the rest are calling the game. You saw everyone was mixing up. Costin, Kane, doesn't matter. They were all going after people. Today, there was much more discipline. There were none of those extra slashes after the whistle. They weren't starting anything. You saw the Kings were trying to start scrums, especially late in the game when they were down. They really tried to take a chunk out of the Oilers, at least going back to LA, try and get a little bit of a physical advantage there. I think the thing that kind of bites them in the ass in that case is game 6 is not until Saturday. So you have like a 4-day break here coming up, right? So, man, if they lost, it would have just been, I would have just been on a mental cliff for 4 days, just right on the edge. I'm so happy they won. My heart could not take a loss. Oh my God. Like, what a lift this is for my spirits. So yeah, that's sick. But yeah, no, I don't think I understand the logic behind, okay, we're down in this series, one more loss, we're out. Like, we need to make that move. To me, I think you're putting almost too much pressure on Brandt Clarke, and I think the Oilers they obviously know that he's coming in the game, and that's something they're going to target. They clearly target Sean Durzi. They clearly targeted Alex Edler when he was in the lineup, and I don't think Brandt Clarke's any different. Maybe he's a little more dynamic in moving the puck, but Oilers fans are familiar with Evan Bouchard in his rookie season. Like, with that type of defenseman as a rookie, you just expect mistakes. Like, obviously you're dynamic, and he will be a top pairing defenseman in the NHL 2-3 years, 4 years down the road, whatever. I don't think he would make an impact, and I almost think that might be a detriment to the Kings. Kyle, if Brandt Clarke comes in the lineup, what do you think?
I don't think it's a good idea, for his sake as well as for the Kings, because it's a bit of a distraction. Also, it's a lot of pressure to be like, hey, you're 18, 19 years old. I don't know how old he is. Like, I just know he's probably younger than I am, and you're throwing him in to be like, hey, we're on the brink of elimination. You're our savior tonight. Please score 65 goals in one period to beat McDavid. I'd like that's just too much pressure for, like,
yeah.
That's just too much pressure for anyone.
You're right. He's not going up. It's not like he's going up against, the Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. He's going up against McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, it doesn't get better.
Hey, now.
So yeah, that would be that's a tall thing to ask. And probably the weakest thing, and one thing I just want to highlight kind of before we wrap it up. Like in terms of the Oilers, like I think their weakest points have been like one thing that would be worrisome is like the Darnell Nurse playing. I think Darnell Nurse has been on for like 10 goals against this series already. Like he hasn't been phenomenal when he's on the ice. I believe I saw had this pulled up before. The shots when Darnell Nurse was on the ice tonight. Yeah, Cody Ceci, the day Oilers had 4 shots for and 10 shots against in 16 minutes, 5-on-5 for the Kings. So that's not great. And Darnell Nurse was 4 shots against, 4 shots for, and 12 shots against in 18 minutes at 5-on-5. So they're struggling right now to transition the puck. And you saw them that bite them on the Kings. I believe it was the first and the third goal they were on the ice for. It might be the first and the second. I can't remember, but yeah. Did you guys see any red flags from that CC Nurse pairing, or what do you guys think of their play?
I'll be honest. I saw more red flags from CC than Nurse. Like Nurse has his foibles for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when he gets distracted, especially when he gets like too physical and he takes himself out of the play, that's an issue. But man, CC, there's times where he just doesn't know what's going on. He just guesses, and it's not great. But you know, not to distract from your point, Zach, but just talking about Brandt Clarke again, just for a second.
No, totally.
If they were to flip out like Alex Edler to put Brandt Clarke in and just like shift it to get some more offense at even strength, put less pressure on him. He's on like the third pairing type thing. Maybe it's not too much pressure, but like we talked about the Kale Makar comparison, Makar was also like a year older and had 2 years of college under his belt, which is like a little bit different than playing major junior, right? Like
totally.
It's a different step, I think, a different amount of conditioning. But I know Brandt Clarke played 9 games in the NHL this year too, so maybe he's not as green as we think. Maybe he is ready, but it is a lot of pressure. And like we saw similar, like it's not the same because it's not like he was healthy scratched. But in 2021, when the Habs went on their run, Dom Ducharme, who got so much credit for that, despite the fact that he did basically nothing. Remember, he scratched Cole Caulfield in the first 2 games of that series against Toronto. And everyone was like, this kid is why you made the playoffs in the first place. He literally scored like 4 overtime goals in the last 6 games of the season to squeak in over Calgary, and then you scratch him right away. So like it's, I think, a dangerous game with young players where you just throw them to the fire when you're up against it. But I could see them if they put it in a small role where they're not expecting him to be like, hey, you fix this for us. Well, it would make sense. But yeah, Cody Ceci is definitely, I think, the biggest issue on the Oilers defense. Nurse, I think the biggest thing with him is you got to play him less.
Yeah,
like he doesn't need to be playing the minutes that he's playing. The Oilers don't have the weakness on defense that they had in recent years. You've got Ekholm now. You've got Evan Bouchard, who's shown up as the guy, you know, offensively. You cannot play him 100 minutes in 5 games at 5-on-5.
They've been running 11-7 to try and balance out the minutes on defense more. Philip Broberg, last game that he played, he was on for 6 shots for 2 shots against. This game, he was on for 2 shots for only and 7 against from the Kings in only 7 minutes at 5-on-5. Plus, he had that random fall into the boards where it looked like he hurt himself a little, like in the second period. So you weren't sure about that. And one of the issues for the Oilers is because they were trying to even out the minutes, is they're playing someone like Vincent Desharnais way too much, and he was been targeted and exposed by the LA Kings, whether it's stupid penalties for just playing the overly physical, and he's significant. He's really slow, and the Kings have really like small, speedy wingers. Like Victor Arvidsson made him look like a fool last game, and again tonight there were a number of plays where I'm like, I don't know how Vincent Desharnais is getting ice time. Like honestly, I think when it gets really crucial, really critical, you saw the ice time tonight was way more balanced out than it usually is. Like obviously there's a lot more. McDavid and Jocelyn could easily be in the 24, 25 minutes. I believe, I don't even know if they played over 20 tonight. But you're going to see that Jay Woodcroft go to a 5-man rotation on defense where they almost eliminate Desharnais and Broberg from it, and they go to a Kulak, Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Ceci rotation, and they just kind of rotate through and swap partners. Now, I think it does become a bit of an issue once you start getting, like, you'll see Nurse and Ekholm out there sometimes, and you'll have one of them playing their offside, like halfway through the game, switching their offside, then going back, and sometimes that does cause defensive lapses, so you have to take that for what it's worth. And yeah, that was just one thing I did want to point out, but I just wanted to say also about your Brandt Clarke point. I think for him going in with any other team, it might you know, he might look better. But the problem is also that the way the Kings are playing defense, right? There's no forecheck. There's no effort to transition the puck up the ice, right? It's all counterattack, and you have Brandt Clarke essentially sitting back and trying to turn him into this physical defender for one game and not allowing him to do what he's strong at. Or if you do that and you do say, okay, we're playing Brant Clark hockey, you know what? We're going guns a-blazing, Edmonton Oilers, shot for shot, whoever wins. That benefits the Oilers. Like, there's no team in the NHL that if there's one team you don't want to go shot for shot with, it's the Oilers. They will kill any team every single time. Does not matter. They can play that fire wagon hockey. They will happily win a game 8-7. Happily. And I think that I cannot see a scenario in which Todd McLellan changes up his tactics now. And I know the ESPN announcers were saying, like, Todd McLellan needs a tactic switch up because clearly Woodcroft and the best players in the Oilers have figured him out. And it will be really interesting to see because I know, and I know a ton of other Oilers fans know, as a former Oilers coach, no matter what, doesn't matter if he's down by 4, up by 4, winning the series by 3 games, he does not change. Todd McLellan does what Todd McLellan does, and that is it. There's no tactic switch up. So I wish Kings fans all the best in that regard, but yeah, I don't think so. And MGD says McDavid played 1947, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. Try 20. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Kat.
I just wanted to say a bit about what the CC Nurse pairing reminds me of a bit in Vancouver is like OEL and Tyler Myers. Just kind of taking the blame for literally anything, and like not unwarranted either. Like there are mistakes made a lot, but it just reminds me of that, where it's kind of like the scapegoat defensively for this is why our team is bad, and it's this pairing right here. Like I think they were like the worst on our team for plus minus or something like that for defensive pairings. It was that's what it kind of makes me think of when it comes to like defensive pairings that aren't necessarily all there. Especially defensive pairings when one is getting paid way too much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And game 6 will definitely be an interesting one. Do you think Campbell starts? I know that there was some. No? Okay.
No chance. Right?
I was so scared that they were going to start Campbell today. And again, like, I cannot credit him enough for how he performed. You know, there was so much adversity, right? You're down. You've had a horrible season, like the absolute worst possible case scenario. He came in and stunned every single person in the hockey world. I think you could have polled 10,000 people who've watched a hockey game this year, and you would not have gotten one person who believed Jack Campbell could stop 27 out of 28 shots against the LA Kings when the Oilers were down by 3 goals. Like, there was no chance, and he proved everyone wrong. With all that being said, and I know Skinner hasn't been phenomenal. He's been like average. Like, I think just flat out average. Just even money for a goalie, just stopping exactly what he's supposed to stop. And like the thing with Campbell is he can be phenomenal, but he can also come in and let in 4 goals and 6 shots, like just as easily. And you never know. It's a roll of the dice every single time. So while Stuart Skinner has been, the highs aren't as high as what Jack Campbell has had in the past in his career. It's been so consistent throughout this entire season of just, you know exactly what you're getting, and the Oilers have the capability to outscore their mistakes. Now, the only thing that I've noticed with Jack Campbell, the one thing that he does better than Stuart Skinner, I think considerably, is play the puck. Stuart Skinner, when he comes out of the net to play the puck, I feel like he might be one of the worst goalies in the NHL. He is so slow in his decision-making when it comes to which defenseman to pass to. He gives me a heart attack every single time he leaves the net, without question. Jack Campbell, and the Oilers thing is their defense, and I know some of these guys like Ekholm haven't played with Mike Smith. They were built to have a goalie that could move the puck because Mike Smith was their goalie for the past 3 years. So I think when Campbell comes in, that actually helps them move the puck quite a bit. And I think that's partially why Campbell gets so much more goal support, or at least did in the regular season, than Stuart Skinner. So it's a really interesting conversation. With that being said, and again, love Campbell. If he has to come in, I also think Stuart Skinner earned the opportunity to bounce back, but that's besides the point. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, other than that, like the Oilers, they're going into LA on Saturday. So we got a long break ahead of us. We'll see how many series end by then. Long break ahead of us. But yeah, the Oilers are going into LA, I think, with all the momentum. What do you guys think happens? Who do you think starts? Do you think the Oilers end up closing it out in 6?
Andrew? I think they do. I think they do. There's a comment here in the chat. MGD is calling out Steve to join the stream. If you're a goaltender, tend the goal. Yeah, we gotta shout out the overlord of SDPN there.
Mhm.
who I hope is asleep on a Leafs off night at 1:22 in the morning, but who knows?
Yeah.
He's insane. Mick and Andrew says Steve Dangle, he's an Oiler fan at heart. It's
Oh,
funny.
yeah, Steve.
I was talking to
Mhm.
Steve before the playoffs started, and I was like, you know, Edmonton's going to win the cup, right? Like, this is the year. Like, they look
We don't
primed. And he
jinx.
was like, don't tell me that. He hates it because he has a struggle with Oilers fans historically. For those
so
who
funny.
don't know,
It is
but
so funny.
it is extremely funny because I feel like Leafs fans have gotten more hostile over the last couple of years. Which, listen, after all the playoff failures, I get it. It used to be a super fun fan base. Now it's like you make one tiny crack and they just go crazy. But Oilers fans had that reputation for so long for being so hostile because, frankly, we talk about how lucky they are. Obviously, getting McDavid after having Gretzky is a little bit unfair and shouldn't be allowed to happen. But
Mhm.
there were some lean years for a long time in Edmonton. So I have to say, like, the fan base now seems pretty
Well-
happy. Like,
well, I mean-
they're not as easy to agitate, and I'm happy for them. I do think the Oilers close this out, and as was my pick before this playoff started, I think this team is going to win the cup.
I'm not speaking. I'll make no predictions. I'll go with what you say. I don't jinx. I don't speak. But Kaya, what do you think?
I don't know. For my Edmonton Dallas conference final, I think they close it out. I think
Listen,
they close.
I hope you both are right. I really hope you both are right. And Andrew, just to kind of say what you or talk about what you said for a second, it's really funny. It's so funny to look back on because I just remember, like, again, I've said this before, but you look back at like the 11-12 season and Jordan Eberle led the Oilers in scoring with like 76 points and 30 something goals. And I thought that was phenomenal at the time. I'm like, oh my God, we have a top 20 right winger. Oh, what we're going to be unstoppable in 4 to 6 years. And then to sit this year and look at you look at like just like hockey DB, and you see 153 points, 128 points, 105 points, like 85 points. Like, it's absolutely wild. Like, Oilers fans are so spoiled, but I think they deserve it because, again, that decade of darkness. Like, I remember going to school and telling my teachers, no, Nail Yakupov and Justin Schultz, it's going to be different this year. It's going to be different this year, and obviously it was not. So. Yeah, Oilers fans, look forward to Game 6 on the SDPN YouTube channel. I know it's super late for you, Andrew, and I know Kai, you're probably going to stay up another 6 hours because it's so early in Vancouver. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here. And everyone in the chat, thanks again for coming in. Remember to donate to the Alphabet Collective, like the stream, subscribe to SDPN. Really appreciate you coming out. I really hope the next stream, Game 6 on Saturday, is the last stream of round 1. And then we obviously we got a long way to go. Hopefully I don't have to shave anytime soon. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, thanks again for coming out. That's all from us, I believe. Any last thoughts?
I just can't wait for Dennis to come back.
Me too, man.
The Oilers owe him a second round. That's all I have to say. They have to close it out.
I hope so.
True.
Well, last year they lost this game. They lost Game 5 and had to 4-7. This year it's kind of roles are reversed and LA is back on the hill. So we'll see what happens there. You can catch Avery's going to host on Saturday. So yeah, I think that's all from us. Let's play it. Like, Oilers are playing La Bamba, and yeah, we'll have a good night. So yeah, take care.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.